Hosted by Mike Wood, only on the Purple Acorn Network.
Hey listeners, hope you're having a great week and welcome back to another edition of My First Job. I'm your host, Mike Wood, and we have a very special episode for you today. We are talking to my buddy Michael O'Sullivan over at Disability Solutions. Hello, Michael. How are you?
I am well. It's Friday, right? I'm always better on Fridays.
Yeah, it is Friday, and at the time we're recording this, I am currently living in an ice castle in the Northeast. I can't escape the ice everywhere. So hopefully it's better where you are.
I'm a Midwestern, just outside of Chicago, so we're stuck in the same polar vortex as you. And if I send it your way, probably.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. I'll really look forward to that. So the same thing I do every single week when I talk to people is I ask, what is your first job? And I know you got a good one. Lay it on me.
Ironically, my first job is a job I still currently have. You see, I started at the age of 10 officiating baseball games. Now, as any child would growing up, they love baseball. It's like, well, how do I take my passion for baseball and actually monetize on it? Well, the local boys league where I grew up, which is the Lombard Boys League, was always looking for entry-level positions or umpires. And like anything else in life, there's high turnover. It's a high-stress job. There's a lot of folks that always want to criticize what you're doing. But as a former catcher, I was like, I think I could do this. Like, this makes sense to me. And so I essentially started at the age of 10. I think it was like, I don't know, $12 an hour or a game essentially. So like it wasn't great money, but like I started doing games here and there. My parents would drop me off, but it eventually led to probably something I love more now than anything. It's a job that's taught me people skills, the ability to make decisions, and so on and so forth.
And describe what is the ideal strike zone for you?
1 in, 2 out, little below, little above. We keep the game moving. As you age up into high school ball and so on and so forth, you start to refine that. But when you get 8-year-olds out there, we're just you just start swinging, fellas. We're going to get this thing rolling. It's kind of what you provide instruction to the coaches, because I'd probably still be on the field for some of those games. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think I told you this when we were talking about the episode, but I had done some refereeing for soccer when I was a kid. I think I was maybe like 13, something like that. And I was awful at it. And the parents were awful to me, and they had every right to be mad at me. I forgot the score. And I was judging these little like the Pee Wee League and stuff. So I didn't get called back. But did you have to deal with any kind of crazy parents when you're a 10-year-old?
I would love to tell you I got no stories, but all I have is stories about crazy parents. And like generationally speaking, I'm 43 years old, by the way, and I started when travel ball really wasn't a thing. You had the end of the year tournament, which was just an in-house tournament. And if you were lucky, maybe you went to a neighboring town and played a game or two. But nowadays, the level of participation amongst coaches, players, and parents, and you have paid coaches coaching an 8-year-old team, to me, that seems bonkers. But for the official in me, that's just a tremendous amount of extra revenue, because I can go to a tournament every single weekend that usually starts on a Thursday and ends on a Monday night for a championship. And I'm making anywhere from $2,500 to $3,500 a tournament if you're literally in the field the entire time. Now, as I've gotten older, I'm not taking on as many games. I got 3 kids of my own, but it's the money's there to be made just from a financial perspective, but it keeps me slim and trim too. So it's really the greatest job ever in my perspective. Teaches you so much about time management, the ability to work with different types of folks. As I mentioned, it's changed a lot over the years.
But that's great that you still do it. I mean, it's obviously something that you enjoy, and so that's great that you've been doing. I mean, you said you're 43 now, so quick math, 27 years, something like that.
Give or take. Yep.
I screwed up that math. So anyway, we'll move on from the umpiring, and so what? I think you mentioned that you worked for an uncle of yours. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, my first true real job, I suppose, out of high school was working for Oshie Tap and Die. It was a warehouse position. And my uncle, who had been there for several years himself, probably 10 at that point in time, said, yeah, well, like, I'll put you to work. And so I was happy. My parents were happy. I was going to community college. It allowed me to really kind of take in some extra money and get my schooling more or less paid for. But that experience in warehouse was extremely interesting to me because it really kind of taught me that I didn't want to do that. And if I didn't want to do that, like I worked a 6 to 3 shift. I was an early riser. I was getting in there, and like you had the truck drivers rolling in with the shipments international organization, and so like they did an amazing job of getting like products broken down, put on shelves. But like I think I probably walked like 10 miles a day in that little warehouse, and it was only just up and down the same aisle. So it was an interesting experience to kind of see what you want to do and what you want to become. Because I remember when I tossed my shirt to my uncle, says, "I'm out of here." He's like, "Where are you going?" I was like, "I'm going back to school full time. I appreciate everything you've done, but it was time to move on."
Nice. That's kind of a boss move to toss your shirt at him and just be
Yeah,
like,
my uncle had some choice words for me. Maybe wasn't my best exit in hindsight, but I think I was probably, I don't know, late teens, 19, 20, 21 at that point in time. So I had a lot to learn. Wouldn't do that
yeah,
nowadays.
no. But it's interesting. You got to try different things to see kind of what fits. And you knew that that wasn't a long time fit for you. So you went off to school. What did you want to do?
Well, that's the funny thing. Like, I went to school to get a degree in public relations at Bradley University. Now, my father had told me he's been a career salesman. He's like, "Whatever you do, son, do not become me." "What's wrong with you, Dad?" He's like, "You don't want to be in a career in sales." He's like, "All right, sounds good." Picked a major, had a wonderful sort of plan set out. Then all of a sudden, I graduated college in 2008. The economy wasn't exceptionally good. I couldn't find paid work, so I had to do some internships. Now, internships were at least a segue into public relations, which is where I got my schooling from and my education. But at a certain point in time, they just weren't going to hire me. So what did I end up doing? Well, I walked down the street because I was working off Michigan Avenue to the Tribune Towers and got my first sales job.
Ah,
It made my father proud. Now, all those years playing baseball and selling baseball candy, it really kind of allowed me to at least understand the hustle and the grind of a sales professional. But the fine folks at the Tribune organization really kind of paved the way to really future steps in my career because that sales organization was your typical throw you against the wall, see if you stuck type of thing. And I think I made it less than a year before they showed me the door. But they showed me the door right as the Blackhawks won like their first Stanley Cup. So like I had my monthly train pass still valid and ready to go. And so I spent a couple days celebrating with the Chicago Blackhawks after my dismissal from the Tribune Company. So like it really wasn't the worst thing that happened. But on my stroll back to that train, I saw that the Career Builder was hiring. I was selling Career Builder products at the Chicago Tribune. So I was like, all right, well, I'll apply to this organization. Then 12 years skipped by.
yeah.
It was
So,
the perfect organization for me.
yeah. So you went to Career Builder, and then can you tell me about where you're at now? Like, what are you doing for Disability Solutions? Tell me a little bit about that company and why you're there.
Well, I'm actually here because of Career Builder. Like in my 12-year stint at Career Builder, I not only met my wife, but I found my passion, which is really partnerships, which is currently what I'm doing here at Disability Solutions. But halfway through my 12 years at CB, I transitioned over to working with agencies, ATS resellers, and really kind of in the latter half of my career there, working with some programmatic partners. If I have any special skills in life, it's really connecting dots, sometimes that are either seen or not seen. And when I finally lived through, I think 6 rounds of layoffs within Career Builder, and they showed me the door, I was like, well, where do I go? What do I do? I have Umpire on my resume. I have 12 years of Career
Yeah.
Builder and some warehouse experience. As it turns out, the fine folks at Career Builder did provide me with an amazing skill set that essentially allowed me to transition into my current organization, Disability Solutions, where I sit as the director of strategic partnerships, overseeing essentially those 3 facets of the business, both agencies, ATS resellers, programmatic. And in my spare time, I get to sell some stuff directly, which is really kind of passionate for me because I myself am a person that has been living and thriving with a disability for well over 30 years. I had an acquired disability at the age of 10. So it's my passion met my actual work experience. I don't think that aligns very much for most folks, but for me, I kind of hit the jackpot there.
Yeah, and so you work with organizations that are looking to hire the disabled, right? Like, tell me a little bit more about what Disability Solutions does.
Yeah, absolutely. Disability Solutions has been around for over a decade, 12 years to be exact, but our parent company, Ability Beyond, has been around for over 100 years. They manage and own a lot of managed care facilities on the East Coast of the United States. And essentially, people that would go into their care would sometimes have to do transition back out to the workforce. Now, there was no organization around back in the day that would allow or sort of cater to the disability community. Now, the disability community is extremely large. Mathematically speaking, 1 out of 4 people globally is affected by disability. Now, disability ranging from everything from color blindness to the use of assistive devices, and you have both the hidden and non-hidden disability. My specific disability is mine's hidden, so until I self-disclose, most folks, well, they think I'm normal, but and I am normal, but that's all up into interpretation. But we essentially allow organizations to take a path moving forward in disability inclusion. Some jump into the deep end, and others are starting with some of our more basic services.
So there's been a recent attack on DEI and all
Really?
sorts of inclusion. Oh yeah, oh yeah. My daily doom scroll has shown me that
Tell me
just
more.
falling apart. How do you still stand up for disability solutions in today's environment?
Be honest with you, it usually hits home for most folks. It's either your mother, your brother, your aunt, your uncle, or someone you know directly that is impacted by disability. And like I said, it ranges. It is a entire spectrum. And mathematically speaking, whether you were born with a disability, you may age into a disability. Hence, why you know somebody directly within your personal lives that is affected by it. And so, we kind of take it with a grain of salt, realizing that we essentially get grouped into a lot of different sort of efforts and energy in the diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging space because we are in that world. But we're not of the rhetoric you're seeing out there. So it will be definitely impacting our organization. But we're seeing things change. People are reshaping their programs. They are essentially riding a horse of a different color into market because what used to be just public facing, this is what we do and how we do it. We at Disability Solutions have a very quantifiable sort of program. If, for example, we have a provider that invests at least over $15,000 and we were able to deliver back quantifiable hires that not only allowed for the renewal of said services, but it actually doubled their effort because it's a quantifiable, measurable tool, much like your Indeeds, your LinkedIn's of the world, and so on and so forth.
I think that you said 1 in 4 people have like disabilities, and I that's probably 1 in 4 people, but they aren't even disclosing it. Like a lot of people don't talk about that stuff. There's this stigma of mental health or any problem with yourself. And how you process information could be viewed down upon. I think that the work that you're doing and work that others in our space are doing to kind of say it's okay. Everybody's dealing with something. Everybody is processing information differently, and that's okay. But it's incredible that your parent company's been around for 100 years because this stuff hasn't been it's not mainstream accepted from our like parents' generation, for example.
Oh yeah.
I'm like positive that my dad had dyslexia growing up and never talked about it and stuff. So I'm sure there's all sorts of people that say that okay, there's more disabilities out there. There's a rise in it, but it's probably just a rise in people reporting it or being actually diagnosed. That's just my 2 cents on it.
And you hit the nail right on the head, probably a couple times in all honesty. I mean, part of what we do is educational here. We are breaking down barriers every single day in regards to bringing our organization forward. Take, for example, I oversee a lot of our programmatic effort and energy within the organization. There are no programmatic vendors out there from the job board space that operate in diversity, inclusion, and belonging in general, let alone disability. So not only am I flying the flag, but I'm essentially the torchbearer for a lot of organizations, hopefully, to come behind us and really sort of participate from duration-based hiring into performance-based hiring and really kind of take that effort forward. But you go back to disclosure. Like, should I self-disclose to my employer? I've always been of the mindset because I essentially joined the disability community at a young age. I disclose it early and often. But what I found, though, is sometimes it's in one ear, out the other when it comes to not only your employer, but really your direct managers. And it's not something that they really can control, because at the end of the day, I survived 12 years at Career Builder, which was a cutthroat sales environment. So it was put up or shut up, and they were more than happy to show you the door. And so I needed to be performative. Now, if I asked for accommodations, which I typically did not, but I was on file with HR, and they're like, well, just talk to your managers and let them know exactly how that works. At the end of the day, it really comes down to education. And so finding the ability to work at Disability Solutions is phenomenal in breaking down those barriers, because some employers get it and others are learning. And we love every single one of them for all their effort in it.
Well, I love the work that you're doing there, you and the team. I love seeing you at events. So we'll have to grab a beer at the next HR Tech. But if people want to find you online, where can they go?
Easiest is just right there on LinkedIn, Michael O'Sullivan. There aren't very many O somethings in the world. My grandfather rolled through Ellis Island, and technically speaking, they added the O apostrophe to my name. I actually have a lot of relatives, both stateside and back in Ireland, that are just Sullivans. And so you shouldn't have any issue finding Michael O'Sullivan.
All right. Well, there you have it. The whole origin story of Michael O'Sullivan. So thanks for joining us, and you have a great weekend.